Okay, very welcome. Let's start by finding a comfortable position. Close your eyes and notice this very moment. You notice all the qualities of it. If there is a lot of going on the surface, you just notice thoughts, emotions, and you notice that all these things can be observed. That the very natural part of you just have this strong sense of being, the sense of I am, prior to your experience, prior to your thoughts, emotions, bodily sensations. Prior to all the things that you see yourself as. The earliest expression of you is this beingness. If you look for the core, for the source of yourself, you will always end up here. And your mind might be distracting, drawing you in time and time again on trails of thoughts. But you are not thinking. You are not the thinking itself. You are the observer of thoughts. And every time you realize this, you come out of this thought trance and come back into beingness. This shows that beingness itself is prior to thought. You start to recognize that thoughts are happening in this beingness. And when you say that the beingness itself is lost, it's actually not really true. Beingness cannot be lost, but you can be identified with thoughts, and beingness is obscured for a while. But you never have to go look for beingness itself. You just have to come back to the source. You just have to remember that you are prior to thoughts. And it might feel like a struggle at first. Maybe thoughts have a very prevalent position in your consciousness, and they will time and time again steal your attention. It means that you are not aware of your thoughts, and you have a mechanical behavior that just goes with them. This is not not something to take in a judgmental way. It's just facts. And as soon as there is awareness of thoughts, your relationship to thoughts change. Thoughts can seem so powerful. It can take so much space. But in actuality, they're just another phenomenon that comes and goes. You might think that your thoughts are very personal and important. But thoughts are mainly collective. You have inherited patterns, ways of thinking, attitudes that just continue. Usually from your parents or people around you. And as you observe thoughts, you notice that they lose their power. You will not be as reactive to them. And this can be a big change to your psychological makeup. It's not really that you have to take in meditation as a philosophy. If you just practice this, very obtainable. You will notice that everything changes. Because what you think the world is, and how you perceive it, how you take it on, depends mainly on what you take yourself to be. This is the largest component in everything. Because the world is not happening to you, it's happening in you. You might walk around with all these ideas of what the world is and the state of it. But that thought is your state. That is what it becomes. And when you give yourself this space and you rest in pure beingness, observing your thoughts, allowing for a while the trance of thoughts, letting it be absent, then you notice that your natural pace, your natural space is peace. And you might say, but my life situation is chaos. I feel challenged all the time. My world feels small. This is the heaviness of identity. And when you experience the ego in full effect, it can feel that peace is very far away. But as soon as the mind draws that conclusion, it oversees the obvious fact that the present moment can never be far away. Beingness is always here. How can the infinite go? And you don't have to look for it as a thing. It's not an object to be obtained. Beingness itself is your nature. And if there is a lot of identification with thought, look for the source. Look for the source of this person that you all the time identify as. Look for the earliest expression of I. It's not something that you have to think about. Look for it in your experience right now. Look for this expression, this first expression of I. And you might have a sense of a physical phenomenon that is this I. But if that is the case, what is aware of that phenomena? You might have a strong sense that you're the body, but there is awareness of the body. So where is the first I? If the body can be observed, you have to be the observer. You cannot be the observed. Look, really look. And this looking is not a quest to find a phenomena. All you will find is that there is no phenomena that is you. There is just awareness. There is just this pure beingness, infinite and still. You can open your eyes, move your body if you need to. The ringing of the bell and the making of this more formal meditation is to make a shift for the mind. Because for some of you, when it is formal meditation, you will take it more seriously. And that is exactly what you need. And for some of you, when the bell has rang and you can relax again, you will relax. And for some of you, this will be beneficial. To give universal instructions in meditation is difficult because of the psychological makeup, and especially in the sense that some people are tense and some are too relaxed. And they need the opposite. Because if you're too tense, then everything is too serious. You tense up when you're trying. You lock yourself in in your achievements. And for the one who is too relaxed, the mind just goes. There's no focus. And between these two, there is a middle ground where you can just stay as you are. And some people, when they first encounter this, they find the balance point and it feels like they really have to balance. This is it. It feels like I don't have to, now I have to be very careful not to force or to relax more, because here's the tipping point. And that is just because there is this push and pull motion in most people, either trying or giving up. But it's actually none of those. And sometimes when people hear about non-dual meditation, they say, oh, so everything just happens and everything is just in the power of beingness. I don't have to do anything. And you go completely into this, the lazy mode. You say that there is nothing I can do. So you put yourself into an egoic idea of giving up. But this has nothing to do with the beingness, but it can seem to the mind that it does. Because the present moment happens naturally. It doesn't have it doesn't need to be forced or taken back. It will just unfold. And as most of you probably have experienced, you will call it the days that you have complete flow. You don't have to fix anything, it just feels like everything falls into place. That is the balance of it. And action can happen, but there is no doing. Can you understand when I talk like that? Even when you need some things can be quite challenging and you have to do things quickly, but there is still no effort. And often in those situations, the mind goes somewhere where it says, this shouldn't be happening like this, or it's too much right now, and as soon as you identify with it, all the striving starts and it feels unnatural again, and it feels like you have to put in a lot of effort to make this happen. This is all a product of identity. This is what you notice in your meditation. And the beauty that can happen is that you start to observe your daily life and you find it interesting even when there is friction. What you would normally consider a bad day. But you notice, okay, something is identified here, and I have created a strong sense of I, or a very strong sense of the body. And it makes this friction, it makes everything heavy. And as soon as there is alertness of this, there is the possibility of coming out of this identification. But for many people, they don't know that they have become blind to the ideas of their thoughts or their emotions. And if you come back time and time again and observe, It's like you start to be in contact with a much more neutral ground. The observation in itself is non-changing. It doesn't depend on your mood. If you're angry, happy, frustrated, whatever it is the same. And it makes it easy. As soon as you come back to it, it makes it easy to determine, oh, I'm so emotional today. But you haven't noticed before. You were just irritated with everyone, but you were so blind to it. So if you have the openness that you can be lost like that, it's much easier to recognize this space. Because if you have a nice inner story that just says, yes, I'm like this because of this, and you just justify it, then it's very difficult to come out of it also. Then the story becomes very rigid. And this is the most common way that people approach their mind, that they just justify. I feel like this because of this and this, because this person said so and so, I'm now in this state. Da, da, da. Because I had a bad month with this and this, I'm like this. But none of those things are solid. They're all thoughts that are in the field of change. They're all transient. They're all on the surface. It's like saying that the ocean is only waves. And you forget everything below the surface. The thousands of meters of ocean that is just quiet stillness. But you just look at that. You say there's a storm, so there's so much going on the surface. But compared to the whole, it is nothing. And it's just more water. I get asked sometimes what I believe in. My niece asked me if I'm a Hindu or a Buddhist. And my brother didn't know, so she asked me. I explained to her for a few minutes and she said, okay, it seemed to be much more complicated than that. But it's actually not complicated, I would say. Because the context is secondary. It's not about belief. It is about beingness. And beingness is very practical. It's just that some of the religions are just keeps beingness much more in the forefront. And I think that's why they're referred to by people who are interested in meditation. But it has nothing to do with that. Your faith or your cultural background doesn't matter because it's all the same. This beingness, even if we have this word, and if you like the word or you don't like the word, it is still in you. And if you have a religious disposition, you might refer to it as God. But it's still the same thing. It doesn't matter what we call it. The stillness, we can call it whatever. We can make up new words. It is still the same. And the principles of it does not change. There's no principles to it that are specific to non-dual meditation. There's nothing like that. We're just looking at the principles of the existence as they are. And I know that the mind so easily can interpret all these things, but it doesn't mean that this is a very specific way and this is the only way or anything like that. It's actually absolutely not the only way, because everyone is the way. And it doesn't discriminate at all. Whatever religion you call yourself, if you would create a religion that would be anti-non-dual meditation, you would still be guided by the same principles. Even if you try to go against everything you know about it, it will still be guided by the same. And I heard one person say, I have given up on spirituality. Okay, but you're still guided by the same principles. It's like saying, I have given up gravity, the electromagnetic forces. I've given it all up. I'm not interested in that anymore. I don't believe in that anymore. Okay, but you're still in the relative guided by the exact same principles. So why not embrace them? When you fall, you're still a victim to gravity. And I understand that not everyone is going to embrace and look at their beingness, because there are so many things out there. There's so many things to do in your life. There's so many dreams to accomplish. There's so many things that that steal your attention away. I understand this. But it is also completely unavoidable at some point to come to it. You come to some kind of personal crisis, you're faced with a disease, the death of loved ones, whatever it is, and suddenly it feels very important. As soon as time feels short, it feels very, very important to know who I am, how to relate to the death of the body, how to relate to death around me, how to relate to loss, changes, dramatic changes in my life. Everyone is subject to that at some point. And if there is peace here, it will not be shaken by those things, because you will understand that that is just another phenomena that comes, stays for a while, and goes. And you have a sense of this unshakable beingness. Even if you would still believe that it comes and goes sometimes, in the moments when it's there naturally, There is no doubt. You can even feel thoughts like, if the body would die, it would be fine. There is such a completeness to this beingness. And it has an inherent deep acceptance of the present. That is the essential quality of it. That is the core of it. And all the things that we can enjoy and sometimes that can feel so small but prevalent, like someone is telling you everything is going to be okay. Because that is just acceptance of the moment that you enjoy. I think you all have experienced at some point, you feel a bit shaky and someone says, it's all going to be okay. And you really feel it. And in that moment, it's just acceptance of what is. These simple, simple, small things all reveal the same truth. And when we talk about this truth, it's not a truth to be believed in. I just want to make that very clear. Because when you talk about truth, it can feel so there are so many dogmatic ideas around truth. But when I refer to truth, all I point to is the truth of beingness. What is the guiding principle in all of us? What is that is the truth that you will experience if you look for the first expression of I. That's it. You can, of course, when you hear these things, create a belief, and there's nothing wrong with that happening either. But it cannot stay as a belief, because then it is a philosophy. And it will have all the distortions of just being a thing in the mind. And when you experience it, that is the thing. When you think about it, it is something different. And I think this is one of the egoic tricks that the ego has. It is that it can convince you that thinking about the thing and the experience of the thing are the same. That's how worry can come into play. Your thoughts about the future and what is going to happen in the future, same. So this is important. But they are not the same. They're absolutely not the same. And if you observe, you will notice that your ideas of anything that you have and the experience of it are vastly different. The mind can try to make them the same. This is also something that the ego loves to do. Find the points where it shows that they are the same, because that keeps the egoic mind intact. But as soon as you really look, you will notice that the experience and the thought are not the same. And you can have that clarity in moments with people also. You have a very strong idea of what that person means to you. an old friend or your partner or whoever. And in the moment, when you really see them and you allow this moment to be as it is, you see that the ideas that you have of that person and the experience of the person do not correlate. It's so easy that it's imposed as a filter. And every approach is that. And sometimes can just be broken by another person joining your conversation. And you see the person that you have all these ideas of how they will react and how they are. And when you project that on them, they will become that. And suddenly they change. They say something completely different because just a third party comes in and says other things, other energy. I think you all have noticed it perhaps. Yes. And allowing this experience to be new, allowing yourself to be new also creates the possibility for others to be allowed to be new. Because it comes from the idea of yourself. And when there's no rigidness about the person, there's also a much, much wider possibility of change. I think that most people have no idea how stagnant the stories of the mind make us. If you believe in your inner stories a lot, they will be they can be really like a prison. They can make the world so small. And it can feel so scary to go up beyond the boundaries of that. Because often the idea of creating that is to create some kind of stability and safety and things to come back to. Just watch yourself going back to thoughts. It's like something that just gives you safety. So you just, when the thoughts come, it just feels, oh, I recognize this. How destructive the thoughts are, how self-deprivating they are. They can be terrible thoughts, but they can just feel, I know these thoughts. I'm used to them. So please come, so I can just feel a little bit safe in my. And I understand that it can be difficult to approach this because it can feel challenging to be so honest. But that is the level of honesty that is required if you're interested in this. And when there is space and when you're not too locked on the grid, you will start to notice that also those emotions that usually feel quite heavy and rigid can just change very quickly. All these stories of the mind can create very rigid patterns that also keeps emotions for much longer than they need. And you know, and you have probably seen children how they relate to their emotions, that it can be so, the shifts can be so quick. They're completely devastated about something, and then they see something beautiful, and they're, oh wow, and they still have their tears and everything, but suddenly they're just happy about beautiful balloons or whatever it is. And this is a possibility of the mind that often gets lost with when these adult stories are created, because it says today is this kind of day, this is my mood now, all these kind of thoughts, and it's because of this and this, and you create a very rigid structure, and it's very difficult to break because there's so much weaved identity around it. So I think these things are very good to talk about, to just understand the mechanics that create the rigidity and the jail of the mind. And I know that when you stay with your beingness in your meditation, that it sometimes feels like you're not holding on to anything. Have you experienced that? It feels like there's just space, and it feels like the mind wants to go and find some kind of security, something to hold on to. It almost is looking for another thought to, but you just stay, and it feels very spacious, and you can feel almost disoriented. You can feel very uh, scary is too harsh of a word, but it can just feel uncertain. And this openness, this uncertainty, is what can create the space of the allowance of things to change, that there is enough space for it. And another very important part of it is also to be just that there is alignment between your actions and how you talk. This is just a very helpful thing. For example, if you promise to do something, to do it, because it has, you think that it has effects that are for your relationships, or, but it's mainly for the inner world. Because as soon as there are promises and your talk and your actions are not aligned, then it creates karma. It just creates continuation, actions that need continuation. It just creates more. You think about it, you feel heaviness about it, it connects your identity, all these things. And when those things are aligned, there is just nothing. And it just happens as it happens. And this is the way that you can notice progression in your meditation. Is it is that you will come to the revelations that silence is the game. All the things that create non-action. And sometimes it feels strange because some of those things can seem like it requires some action, and then you come to a point of non-action. I take having faith and not seeing yourself as the propeller of your life is a great example of that, where you just have to bow to something greater. You have to, at some point, not feel like I am creating my life, because that will create more thoughts. You will notice that that idea creates identity. And it creates self-blame and all these things. I know that in our culture is held very high. I'm completely aware of that. But if everything is up to you, it becomes very heavy. Then it can feel like the state of the world is up to you. You should have done more, or why are people hurting each other? Yeah, I should have done something. You can blame yourself into everything if you have this very strong sense of individualism in it, and you as the doer. And if you truly surrender, then your actions will also be aligned where you can really help. And to really be helpful to life itself is perhaps not at all what you first thought it would be. The qualities that that are needed more in the world are not the qualities that you thought. You thought it was the qualities of change, and suddenly you start to notice that what the world needs is not more meddling, it is the quality of beingness. Because what you need is what the world needs. If you listen, you will also be a good listener. It just comes. And maybe you don't have to do anything. Maybe it's enough to be. And that invokes that sense of beingness in others. The world is much more subtle than we think. Again, we look at the waves of the ocean and say, it's a storm right now. But the ocean is 10,000 meters deep. And it's completely black and still. But on the 1 millimeter surface, there is a storm going on. And we look at only that. And when we recognize this depth of beingness, we see it in everyone, even the one who's completely fear ridden and torn into fragments, their mind torn into fragments. You will still see beingness in them. And this depth allows you to love everyone, because you will understand that they are the same. You don't have to like their behavior. You don't even have to like them as a person, but you love them. And this just comes from the recognition that this is the source of love in you, is this beingness. That is what creates the beauty of others. And you see how meddlesome everyone is, trying to fix their lives, trying to meddle with other people, telling them what to do. should be more like this. You're not enough like this. I'm just saying that because I love you. You have to be better at this and this. People are meddlesome. And when I see that they create these nature sanctuaries to keep, and they have to do a lot of things to keep nature intact as it should be, because people have been too meddlesome with nature. So now we have to, oh, these species are almost going extinct, so we have to keep everything and we have to fence it in, and there has to be a lot of people fixing nature all the time so we can keep it. So we meddle, and then we have to meddle, and then there's so little interest in what this natural unfolding is. I think because it's subtle. Everyone is looking at the waves. No one is looking at the depth of the ocean. Because the surface is what you see. And then you think that is what is going on. And I find it very beautiful that life is not what we think it is. That beingness goes through everything. That it's not something that you discover in meditation. It is what you are. Any questions today? Yes? Take the mic.
I have to find the question, but I felt like before I came here there was something I needed to maybe just say out loud, and maybe it becomes a question. I feel like when I first sort of heard about non-duality and got into it, it was so crazy. It was such a crazy thing. It just felt so like, what? That's mad. And then now it just feels like everything else is so crazy. Like how this is so obvious now. It doesn't feel like special anymore. I think that's a sort of, now I feel a little bit like, not that I'm like, oh, now I'm enlightened and my work is done, but I do feel a little bit like it just seems it doesn't seem special. Like it just seems the most reasonable understanding of life seems to be the non-dual one. For me, it just seems normal. But then now I guess I feel a little bit like, okay, like it's not so special anymore or something like this. Maybe I feel a little bit like before there was a lot of sort of like, wow, mind expanding exciting, striving, looking for this. I think there was a lot of like searching. And I feel a little bit like that's calming down now. Like I don't need to watch YouTube videos every day about non-duality. Maybe I don't, I spoke to you before Christmas. I don't need to maybe meditate every day, actually. Maybe I meditate sometimes and maybe sometimes I don't. And, but I think maybe it's sort of a sort of slight feeling in me now of sort of like, what happens now? And I think I mean, I understand it's just the beginning, really. I'll probably imagine like where's the rest of my life is living the understanding. But I think if that is a question, it sort of maybe is what, where do I go from here?
Okay. There is one part of it that is just acceptance of what is. You start to have experience in your meditation of beingness. You sense there is a deep sense of stillness behind the experience. You understand what it does. You see yourself emotional and you can suddenly observe it. You see yourself having a lot of thoughts, having very few thoughts. You start to discern all these things. But the place that this question comes from, what do I do now, is inherently an idea of a person exploring this. That is the dual part of it. And as you know, it also has a non before it. So the question is, who is the one trying meditation? Who is the one who's having the understanding of non-duality to the level where it's no longer a fantastic wow, but now it's just a normal reality? To whom does that apply? Who is the one moving through your life? Who is the one who has the idea that there is you were born, you will die, and you're on this line in time, and you're this sliver of now moving through that? We're talking like that, but that is not what is going on. You are only the present moment, and everything is in that. And the deep acceptance of that is scary. So the egoic mind, even if you don't have feeling that it is actively resisting, it will usually find a nice way to resist that. Because the depth of it, the just being, is so total. You notice it if you give thanks to the whole thing. I think that is a great exercise to do. Thank you for everything. Everything that comes. No discrimination. Not thank you for that I have these nice things and then we don't talk about the bad things. Just thank you for the whole of experience. Thank you for everything. This totality is full of acceptance, if you can come into that. And that will show also, the mind will be exposed in that. Because it will say, you cannot be that total with your experience because this and this and this. It will resist. And usually the resistance is not screaming and fighting. It's a nice explanation. that still feels logical to you, and that appeals to the emotions that you have. These kind of things. So just staying with this, with beingness, can feel unintuitive. It can feel like you're going against what is good for you. It can have all these strange sensations for a while, because you're really going to the core of it. So it also depends on your psychological makeup, what your biggest fears are and how they're associated to you. If you have fear of loneliness, it will say, no one will understand me. I will be a bit crazy perhaps if I go this path, and what is this really? Da, da, da. You can do all this, and it wants to fit in. And you can also sense that perhaps actions will be called by the mind to be more involved in groups, in collective thinking with others. These kind of things can start to be invoked because you feel like you're moving away from it. The egoic mind often works also with opposites. As soon as you open to something, it can be very reactive to the opposite. So just be aware of that, and don't, because as soon as you start to play into that, try to fight it, try to be more something, it again creates more duality. So it can sometimes feel like you're walking a tightrope, that you really have to be aware of what is going on, because it's so easy to go into something. And also just the longing for freedom, the longing for, can sometimes be too harsh and create so much identity, because you just want it, and from that is the personhood of wanting something to become, instead of seeing what is. But a good way to approach it is to have this completeness with it, because that really usually makes the dual parts of it really come out as soon as you are all embracing. You can just sit by yourself, say, thank you, everything. Thank you, universe, for the whole of it, how it all happens. Thank you, thank you. That you show me, thank you. And this I usually refer to that as bowing, but that is the practical application of that. And it can feel a bit forced at first, and maybe you do it every evening for a while, and you just try it. And just allow everything. And another very nice exercise that has to do with beingness is also, when you go to sleep, recognize the moment. Then you come back to it and you stay. And after a while, it will be what you associate with closing your eyes. But this will change very much your relationship to sleeping. And it can improve the quality of it a lot. Because there is, you actively invoke beingness. So you will also be more natural with the deep sleep, which is just the beingness state of it. Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
So I know that you have talked before about leaving people behind.
That
Feeling,
feeling.
that feeling of leaving people behind, and maybe especially the people you have closest in your life, your family.
Mm.
Um, so I guess my question is not very specific. It's more if you could just talk a little bit about that uh, and how to walk that tightrope um, of sort of not sort of I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but sort of keeping your integrity and your uh, sense that you're okay with being as you are with them,
Mm.
um, but also noticing that there can be triggers mm, because you are different and you feel lighter and you don't want to talk about the same things as you used to maybe and things
Mm.
like that.
Mm.
Just how to yeah, some
Mm.
practical things.
It is a solo journey. This one. We can talk about it, but we cannot really bring anyone along. That is just the truth of it. But in many people, there's a very strong sense of of togetherness, of just being with other people, and it's also very helpful in meditation context. That's why we do this. Um, and very strong impulses of many people are also to be loved, to be accepted. And you will challenge all these things. If you start to live your life alignment with what is, it will not always be what people around you will like. Some will say that, oh, it's lovely to see you like this and this, and other people say you have become strange, or you just provoke me now, or whatever it is. And those things are just the things that can happen. But if you if there's a lot of change happening, people react at first, but over time they also get used to it. It becomes normal. And you will be surprised that some people that you thought will never accept your change are suddenly, but it might take them 10 years. I just want to be very realistic. But it's not so important. It doesn't really matter if they would accept you or not. And the more you're free from that, and the more you can relax into beingness and just allow your life to be, then it will also be easier for other people to accept. Because if you're preachy, and maybe you don't mean to be, but but it just comes out, and you have to stand your ground, you feel like, and you have to tell them, I'm more like this now. And that can provoke people a lot. No one likes to be told what life is and what to do. But I think the thing that we're talking about is mainly a fear that comes, that feels like no one will understand me. It's a little bit, I'm going crazy if I'm going to continue this. That can also be like a hint of that in it. And the only way that someone else can really see you in that is if they themselves are connected to the beingness and sees that. And you have also, if you're in contexts of, in spiritual context, you sometimes meet people where you don't even know what to talk about because there's nothing needed. Because that is in alignment. And the big question is always, who is trying to fix all these things, trying to make my life more comfortable when it comes to these questions. And like that there is some kind of idea that only if you had the right action, it would be smoother somehow. But maybe it should be just a bit rough and bumpy until it by itself smooths out. Or maybe it doesn't, depending on what is needed. And if you get triggered around it, it has nothing to do with the others. Just remember, it all comes from you. And I know that it can feel difficult and that it can feel that people are unfair or judging you harshly or whatever it is. So just inquire. Look into the heart of the one at the center of it. See what that is. Try to find the person who's been triggered. Try to fix. This deep acceptance is always at the core of it. That there is nothing to fix. Not in the way that you think. It is so easy to go around looking for solutions. But the problem with that is that you don't understand the problem. You think that the problem is with the waves. When I hear that question, I hear, how can I calm the waves? And then I will say, you are not the waves. There is no need to calm them because you are the water itself. You are the ocean. There isn't really a storm. And I understand the feeling of wanting to resolve it like that. That feels like the level that we operate, the relative, how I am with you. What do I do? How can I improve? And it can feel too hard to grasp there. Somehow in a logical sense, it is like, okay, there is beingness, but what is it really? Do you understand? Like when you're taken by your mind, it feels like a fairy tale. Like a fairy tale of, oh, there's enlightenment, there's beingness, there's all these things below the surface. Wow. But I'm living my life with this situation and I don't have enough money for this. And I made a terrible situation with my friends, da, 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 and now it's like this and whatever. And that is what is in your mind. And you approach things like, can I fix it? And if you start to recognize that the qualities of beingness, you know that it just, there is no need to fix beingness. I think it's a very good thing to contemplate about. What qualities, you can call it the now. What do you have to do with the now to make it something? It's a ridiculous question. It's a stupid question. We cannot do anything with the now. We cannot add anything. We cannot take away anything. Because the now is as it is. And what is time in the now? It's a thought happening in the present. I don't know if I can stress it enough. The now is not a sliver that is happening on a timeline from between past and future. It is not like that. But that is how most people talk about life. They talk about their life like, yes, at this age and I'm going to live until this point, and what am I going to do? This is the approach. How am I going to relate to my pension money? How am I going to relate to this and this? That is what is happening. We relate to all this life, and I'm not saying that you cannot talk about those things or you cannot plan for those things, but that is not your life. Your situation is not your life. The present moment is all there is. I know it's obvious in a sense, but it's also almost no one approaches life like the present moment is all there is. They're mainly in an idea of past and future, hoping for something to be resolved, hoping to feel better, hoping to get rid of anxiety, hoping to fix things. Yes, I have this bodily problem and I have to fix it in order to something. So look at the qualities of the now. What are they really? And is there any proof that there is anything else? This is not a very strange thing. It's a very super logical. And the more you look, is it really true that I am a body, I am this collection of thoughts that I believe in, moving through the world as a thing? And in that, what is deep sleep? What is true meditation in that? It's so disruptive. It doesn't make sense in that context. If you really look, you cannot be a relative being moving around in the world only if deep sleep and true meditation exists. It has to be something else. But we're so much with our thoughts that we just keep on believing. And we come into the trance of emotions and thoughts, and then we're lost. And you will say, yes, I had meditation or I had beingness, but now it's lost. Now it's gone. Even though you intuitively know that is not true. And when you say, I have lost the now, you cannot lose it. How? How can you lose it? How can you lose beingness? It's ridiculous. Right? And in this idea of the external world, there's still the ideals of beingness in everything. Everyone who, if you just believe that you are a body walking around and a collection of thoughts, you're still looking for the moments where you accept the present fully. Whatever you think will make that a perfect situation where you have enough money, you're on the right vacation with the right person, whatever, and the stars are perfectly aligned somehow. And then you feel, I need nothing. This is perfect. And you're still looking for the exact same thing. And again, if you're a person to say, I don't believe in this meditation bullshit, I'm just going to live my life and make myself happy. Okay, but it will still be on the premises that you will, in the moments where you accept the now fully, you will feel this is happiness. Because there is no parallel version of it where with another happiness. That is what happiness comes from. And happiness doesn't have to be invoked. We talk about the conversation in society is so much about happiness. If you just fill these buckets, that's what all commercials say, or what all influencers say, or whatever you listen to. They say, fill these buckets and you will be happy. So people are just bucket fillers. They try to fill the bucket of relationship. They try to fill the bucket of having traveled enough, having a nice home enough, having whatever the idea is. And then you use all your energy in your life to just fill buckets until you realize filling buckets does nothing. And perhaps you have to fill all your buckets and you realize, okay, this doesn't do anything. Now I can travel how much I want. I have all the money I want. I have a great relationship. It doesn't do anything. If I'm not satisfied with being as I am, it has no value. And you will always go with your ideas of what you that is your karma, the things that pull you into, if I'm just achieved this, it does something for me. And perhaps you have to do that, you have to live that karma until it's done. And then you can understand what it is and the limits of it. And there might be some small fulfillment in it, but it's never complete. And if you see it, you see, okay, it doesn't matter how much money I have. Or you just observe others. And in my experience, in the life that I grew up with a lot of rich people. And I saw that they were miserable. So very early on, it was so obvious for me. I didn't create any ideas of that. If I just had more money, it will. And I'm so happy for just being observing of those things. They never gave me the feeling of, I have to go somewhere, I have to do this and this. And with the silence of beingness comes also a natural observation of the world. Because most people who walk around in the city, they just think about themselves. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have worn these pants. They look strange. And they go in their own little world and they're worried about what everyone else thinks of them or whatever. And if the mind is silent, you just see. You see the behaviors of people. You can just sit in a cafe. You can just look at people interacting. You see people walking by. You see everything. You see their fears. You see their drives. You see everything. And when you see those things, something can relax in you. And sometimes you just see that, okay, everyone is just completely taken by their own world, or they're all in this trying to fix things state, or trying to stay with the nose above the surface to just have enough energy to go through the day, and all these things. And the beauty of the observation of other people is that you sometimes don't have to live that anymore. You just see it so clearly. Okay. Any more questions today? Yes.
I think it's a quite light question. I have the situation that I find it very easy to, if I have a friend with a problem, it's so easy for me to come with a good, positive, constructive advice if that person asks me. Like say, for example, if my friend says, I want to go on vacation, where should I go? Then I can, do like this and wow. But when it comes to myself, I just get paralyzed, like I freeze. And I am afraid of taking wrong decisions. And I thought, maybe I should pretend that I am giving advice. Like when I give advice for myself, I give it to a friend. But it's so much mind work. I have to have a diary and
yes, it's complex acrobatics of the mind.
Yes. Do you have any
create even one more to be enough distance from it?
So just if you have any recommendations to kind of shake
yes
loose, because I tried. I went one time to like Liseberg.
Yes.
I hate heights. But I thought maybe if I tried this
roller coasters and things, yes.
Yeah. And I thought I was going to die. It was like so I tried it one more time because I thought maybe it's just the first time. And then I stopped at the third time. I realized no, it's not for me. But it did not help with, I was still the same person. Like
Yes.
before, I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
So it feels like I'm gonna be like this forever. But I know it's there are people who
change.
yeah.
But the challenge that you face in it is that you identify it. When you identify with your own life, it feels like it's very serious. Suddenly, when you help your friend, it's not so serious because it's someone else. Someone else has the consequences and all this. So somewhere in there, the idea of that you are controlling your life. This makes everyone who has strong difficulty with making decisions have a very strong sense of my decisions have a very final quality to them. And I bear the sole responsibility for these decisions. But your decisions just happen depending on the information you have and the thoughts that you have and the collective thoughts that are coming in your mind. That is what creates these decisions. They are not personal in that sense. They just happen. You will always do the decision where you try to make the best of the situation. And then you're done. Then you have to leave it to the universe. But you continue into that. You have the idea of that the consequences of it and whatever will happen is also on you, is your responsibility. And this very heavy identification with it, the idea of the individual and all the consequences of it is yours. You just have what is happening. You make your best of it. You collect the information and then you give it to the universe to do, to show you what it will do with it. You have to understand the limitations of choice, that choice are not really a thing. On the depth of things, you are not even choosing. You will always do the things with the information that you have and with the collective thoughts that you have gathered. You will do that decision. And maybe that is, I don't know if you can connect with that. But just understand that there is a limit to when you have been doing something and then you have to leave it. You have to have a sense, you say, thank you, universe. I have done my part. Now you just show me. Start there.
I think it's like what you told about meddling.
Yes.
That it's better to not meddle too much. Thank you.
And the more you try to do things with it, the stronger the sense of duality in it will be. So see if you can come to a point where it's like, I have gathered my data, I've made my decision. Now it's up to you, universe. Up to God, whatever you want to call it. Yes, it's out of your control. So you just do that every time when you do a decision, you do your things, done, and then it's up to the universe. You think you can do that? Try
Yes.
it? Yes.
I think.
Yes. So start like that.
It feels like less responsibility on like the heaviness of.
Yes. Yes. It's done, and you just give it to the universe. Give it over.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Anyone else? Or should we do some singing? Is there any questions more? Okay. And singing bhajans is really about just that quality, to give it, to leave the control to the universe itself. And at first it can feel like it's just singing. It's just it's nice to sing together. It just creates a nice sense of togetherness and all this. But in the depth also of singing the bhajans is it's the sense of surrendering. Just surrender to the song. Just surrender to giving yourself over to the universe, and to understand that the wholeness of everything and you are the same. It's invoked in that. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Nataraja, Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om, Shiva Om. Nataraja, Jai Shiva Shankara Nataraja. Thank you. May everyone find peace. Come back again and again to the sense of beingness until it is established in your heart. And you notice that you are the source. As Rumi said, you're knocking on God's door, hoping to be let in, just to notice that you've been knocking from the inside.